Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavatam ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 19, Text 28, correct? Okay. Vayam marutvam ihartanasanam. Vayam marutvatamihartanasanam. Vayamahe tvachravasa tatvisham. Vayamahe tvachravasa tvisham. Ayatayamopahavair anantaram. Ayatayamopahavair anantaram. Prasahya rajan jahavam juhuvamate hitam. Vayam marutvatamihartanasanam. Vayamahe tvachravasa tatvisham. Ayatayamo pahavair anantaram. Prasahya rajan juhuvama tehitam. Vayam marutvatamihartanashanam. Vayamahe tvachravasa tatvisham. Ayatayamo pahavair anantaram. Prasahya rajan juhuvama tehitam. Prabhus? Mataji's? Vayamarutvatamirtanasana. Ayatayamo pahavair anantaram. mate hitam. Vayam arutvatamihartanashanam. Vayam mahetat shravasahataatusham. Ayatayamo pahavair anantaram. Prasasya rajan juhvamate hitam. Vayam arutvatamihartanashanam. Okay, word for word. Vayam, we. Marutvantam, King Indra. Iha, here. Artha, of your interest. Nasanam, the destroyer. Vayamahe, we shall call. Tvachravasa, by your glory. Hatatvisham, already bereft of his power. Ayatamaya, never before used. Upahavaihi, by mantras of invocation. Anantaram, without delay. Prasahya, by force. Rajan, O king. Juhuvama, we shall sacrifice in the fire. Te, your. Ahitam, enemy. Translation. Dear king, Indra's powers are already reduced due to his attempt to impede the execution of your sacrifice. We shall call him by mantras, which were never used before. And certainly he will come. Thus, by the power of our mantra, we shall cast him into the fire because he is your enemy. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By chanting the Vedic mantras properly in a sacrifice, one can perform many wonderful things. In Kali Yuga, however, there are no qualified brahmanas who can chant the mantras properly. Consequently, no attempt should be made to perform such big sacrifices. In this age, the only sacrifice recommended is the Sankirtana movement. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Indridhamna Swaminiti Namine. Namo Prabhupada Pridasaya Jagannatha Yatrananda Murtaye Bhakti Sukena Krishna Kirtane Na Narasimhena Rakshataya Namaha. Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulam Gayate Grim Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Okay, so wonderful verse today. And it has a lot of significance, yes? In this purport, Prabhupada is immediately pointing us again to the glories of the holy name, the glories of the Sankirtan movement, and to renew our faith in that the chanting is the only thing that is needed in this age. So we can see in this chapter, well, going zooming out, as we say in the Bhagavatam, right? So many stories and stories and stories. So this is a conversation that's happening between the Brahmanas and King Prithu. Upon seeing that Lord Indra had taken the garb of a sannyasi, he tried to steal the horse to stop the sacrifice. King Prithu was doing 100 sacrifices. And by performing 100 Ashwamedha sacrifices, one becomes well and over-qualified to become Indra by the piety he accumulates. And so King Indra was concerned that King Prithu was going to take his position. And so he wanted to stop the sacrifice, so he took the garb of a sannyasi in many different forms. Sometimes he was sannyasi, like with saffron robes, sometimes. In this case, he was dressed as a Shaivite, like a very tantric yogi. He had a staff with a skull on top, right? He had matted locks. But still, he was Indra. And so he was trying to steal the sacrificial horse so that the sacrifice could not take place. And so Prithu Maharaj is determined to kill him because he is not only stopping a sacrifice to Lord Vishnu, he is also dressing as a sannyasi to perform such abominable actions. And this is something that we see so commonly today in this earth, right? People faking their spirituality in order to collect followers, to collect money, to collect fame. And so this is the beginning of it. This is where it started. So King Prithu, seeing what it can do in the future, he wanted to accordingly punish Indra, right? And all this pastime is a conversation that's being told by Markandeya Rishi telling Vidura, explaining the futility of everything in this material world, right? So in this case, we can see that in that age, at that time of King Prithu, sacrifices was the form of worship. And so Prabhupada is explaining that in this age, we do not have qualified brahmanas to chant these mantras properly. Imagine the quality of mantra you would have to chant to be able to bring the King of Heaven to fall into fire. Right? The quality, the power of that mantra is immense. Even though they describe that he has lost his power due to performing these actions, right? He was using his power to become a sannyasi, to become this, to become that. And therefore his power has been reduced. But still, you're pulling someone who is the King of Heaven into fire, which is not an easy task. And mantras had this power if they were chanted properly and by a qualified person. Today, mantras also have that power, but we are the ones that are lacking. So Prabhupada is pointing out that there's no qualified brahmanas to chant these mantras, and so therefore, there's no use to perform these big sacrifices, right? And this point is brought up again and again and again. And then the question might come up that in the previous ages, in Satyuga, austerity was the way to go, right? To get perfection. Then in Treta Yuga, sacrifice. In Dwapara Yuga, worship of the deity. And in Kali Yuga, all we have to do is chant Hari Hari. And we get the same result. How can that be possible? With our materialistic point of view, we think that no, the result must be less. Right? The result must be much less because they had to do so much more work and we're doing much less work, and how can we get the same result? Right? Obviously, we must be being cheated. Right? But there's so many verses in Bhagavatam and Padma Purana and Brihanaradiya Purana to express this point. And so in Srimad Bhagavatam, I think this is the 12th canto, there's the verse Krite yadhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato mukaihi dvapare paricharyayam kalo tadhari kirtanat. Right? Whatever result was obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapara Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right? So there, Sukadev Goswami, he so clearly points out that there's no difference. There's no difference in the result. And in the purport, Prabhupada, he quotes from 5 different places in different Puranas, pointing out the exact same thing, and he gives a few examples. So the first quote he gives from Vishnu Purana, 6-17, Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda 72-25, and Brihanardiya Purana 38-97, and he quotes the verse. He says, Dhyayan kriteya jan yajnais tretayam dvaparer chayan yad apnoti tad apnoti kalo sankirtana keshavam. Whatever is achieved by meditation in Satyuga, by performance of sacrifice in Treta Yuga, and by worship of Lord Krishna's lotus feet in Dwapar Yuga, is obtained in the age of Kali simply by glorifying the name of Lord Keshava. So this is from Brihanaradiya Purana, one of the oldest Puranas, right? Padma Purana, Brihanaradiya Purana, very old Puranas. And you see that the wording is pretty much exactly the same as the verse from Bhagavatam. It's almost identical, and same as all the other ones that Srila Prabhupada is quoting. So this is not something that we only find in Bhagavatam. This is something we find in all different scriptures and sastras, right? And so therefore in Srimad Bhagavatam also there's another place, in 11.532, right? Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangashtra Parshadam Yajnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajantahi Sumedasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform the congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Right? So in this age, this is what the intelligent people should do. Why should the intelligent people do it? Because you get the same benefit of everything else that was done in previous ages. It's non-different. We're not being cheated. We're not getting anything less simply because we're doing physically something less, let's say. Right? The amount of detail and difficulty it was to perform these sacrifices in previous ages is something we cannot even think of. There's a small instance I can give you of as an example. In Dwapar Yuga, so this is not even Treta Yuga, which much greater sacrifices were performed. This was in Dwapar Yuga. So in Dwapar Yuga, when Maharaj Yudhisthira was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, part of the sacrifice is that one must feed all the brahmanas, all the guests, everyone who comes to their full satisfaction. If even one person leaves unsatisfied or unhappy, the sacrifice will be spoiled. And so Bhima was in charge of serving prasadam, everything that it entailed. And so he constructed huge prasadam halls. Like in comparison, these ones that we see in Oktoberfest are nothing, right? These halls you see with 10,000 people can sit. It says that in one of those halls, 50,000 people could sit at one time. Yeah? And so when they would finish eating, these 50,000 people, the main person of the hall would blow a conch to signal the next batch of people to come and sit down, right? So like that, 50,000 people could sit at a time. And there was many of these halls in different parts of the city of Indraprastha. Shri Prahlad Shankara Bhagavana Ki Jai. And so it's described that those conches could be heard non-stop. That means that non-stop, 50,000 people were sitting down and eating and leaving. 50,000 people were sitting and eating in so many different parts of the city that those conches would just sound and sound and sound and sound all day. So you think about how much riches it takes to facilitate that kind of sacrifice. And that's only one section, just as the prasadam. It's described that King Yudhisthira, he constructed palaces for his guests. Not little tents, not a garden and a potty, so they can go to the bathroom. No, toy, what do they call them here, right? He had palaces constructed for these people, for the guests, for the brahmanas to come and stay. Each of them would get hundreds of thousands of cows, right? Beautifully decorated. So the amount of richness, the amount of effort that would have to be done for these sacrifices is not even, it's just unimaginable to us nowadays. What to speak of the purity of the brahmanas, the purity of everything that was used, the education that those brahmanas must have received to be able to know all these things and to do them properly, right? And we see also in the Vedas so many instances where some mistake happened and the opposite result came. Right? For example, we have the pastime of, Vritasura? Vrita, right? Vritasura, right? His father did a yajna to get a boy that could kill Indra. And his mistake was, instead of going up, he went down. So in Vedic mantras, you have the intonation, right? Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha, right? You go up and down, depending on the meter. And so he went up instead of down. What did he get? A son that would get killed by Indra instead of killing Indra. The opposite effect, because he made one mistake, and not even a syllable mistake, a swara mistake. In chanting mantras, you have Varna Swaraha Matra Balam Sama Santanaha, right? There's 7 different parts of chanting mantras. So Varna and Swara are the 2 first. Varna is the pronunciation and Swara are the up and down. So because of that, one mistake in Swara, he got an opposite effect. And he had a son who got killed by Indra. We see the same instance in Drupada. Drupada was the king of Panchala during the Mahabharata. And he wanted to have a son that could kill Dronacharya. Because Dronacharya humiliated him in such a horrible, it wasn't really Dronacharya's fault, but Dronacharya sent his students to go and destroy the kingdom, right, to capture Drupad. And the Pandavas did it finally. And Drupada, being a proper Kshatriya, he didn't feel, anger. He didn't take out his anger in the wrong way. No, he did yajna, he did austerities. He still served Dronacharya because he was the conqueror. He didn't hold any bad feelings to the Pandavas. In fact, when the story goes, I'll go back a little bit. After the Dronacharya, he taught the Kauravas and the Pandavas everything they knew. He sent them as Guru Dakshin. He said, I want you to go and bring Drupada to come and apologize to me. There's a whole backstory. Anyway. Right? And so first the Kauravas went, 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. And they were unorganized, not working as a team. They all thought, I will do it, I will bring. And so they were fighting with each other to be able to bring Drupada to Dronacharya. And so Drupad Maharaj, he was just standing there watching them fight each other, each trying to get ahead of the other. And so he barely had to do anything. At the end, he finished off the little ones who were still had a little bit of energy, and he sent them back. So finally, Dronacharya, he turned to the Pandavas, the 5 of them, and said, you go. And so Yudhishthira Maharaj took the lead. He gave specific instructions to each of his brothers. They did it and very easily destroyed the army of Drupada. And Bhima went, grabbed Drupada, put him on his chariot, and they brought him back to Dronacharya. So Dronacharya, he, very mercifully, he told Drupada, you have to now apologize for the way you insulted me in our youth. Drupad did it, and he sent Drupada back. So Drupad Maharaj, who was such a good Kshatriya that he didn't hold anything against the Pandavas. In fact, he was so impressed with their martial skills, with their intelligence, with their cooperation, with the way they conducted themselves on the battlefield, that he prayed at that time that they would marry his daughter. He didn't know how or when, but he already was so impressed. So Drupad Maharaj at that time, he was so angry that he performed this yajna. And he wanted a son that would be able to kill Dronacharya. And so he did this yajna and he got 2 kids, Drishtadyumna and Draupadi. So these 2 kids were the 2 sons of Drupada. Draupadi married the Pandavas, and Drishtadyumna eventually killed Dronacharya. Right? So this pastime, we see the effect of mantras. And there's so many other pastimes where in this case when we see like this happened. One mistake, perfect, not perfect, and the opposite outcome can come out. And if it's done properly, the proper outcome comes out. So it works. Yeah, so Prabhupada is explaining that we do not have qualified brahmanas in this age to perform these big sacrifices. And what is the use of performing these sacrifices, even if we did have it, when the same outcome can be achieved by simply chanting the names of Krishna? Yeah? There's another verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 2:1-11. Etan nirvidyamananam ichchatam akuto bhayam yoginam nripanirnitam harir namanukirtanam. O Krishna, constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord after the waves, constant chanting the holy name of the Lord after the ways of the great authorities is the doubtless and fearless way of success for all, including those who are free from all material desires, those who are desirous of material enjoyment, and also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. So chanting the names of Krishna and following the Sankirtan process is the way to go. Doesn't matter what your desire is in this material world. In this age of Kali, if you want material enjoyment, chant the names of Krishna. If you want spiritual upliftment, chant the names of Krishna. If you're self-satisfied and you don't want anything, still chant the names of Krishna, right? And also those who are self-satisfied by dint of transcendental knowledge. So, those who know everything and don't want anything, still they should chant the name of Krishna, right? This is the way of success for everyone in this material world. And there's a funny pastime after the time of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. There was one Sri Vaishnava Karmakanda Brahmana. He joined the Gaudiya Math in Mayapur, I think. And so after some time, devotees started asking him, how did he become a devotee? When did you come? And he says, I want to go to Svargaloka, he said. I want to go to Svargaloka to enjoy eternally in Svargaloka with all the apsaras and have all the riches and become very powerful. And so after studying all the Shastra, I understood that this is the process by which I get the most benefit. And in Mayapur Dham, you get much more benefit for doing the same activity. And so instead of going the Karmakanda route, he decided, I will become a devotee and get the same outcome. Not the same, much greater outcome. So he was thinking like a businessman. Yeah? Why would anyone want to go the difficult way of Karmakanda when it's so easy to chant the Lord's names in the Holy Dham and you get millions of times more benefit than performing hundreds of thousands of Rajasuya sacrifices? So his desire was Svargaloka. But still, through intelligence, Sumedasaha, right, the intelligent person, he decided, I will chant the Lord's names and I'll get much more benefit, right? We actually, in the Gurukul, we had a group of boys who wanted to be like a clique, a group, and they called themselves the Sumedasas. The more intelligent people, they were a Sumedasa group. It was very difficult to join their clique. Yeah, but it was 3 of them, they were the Sumedasas. So they used the verse of Bhagavatam very appropriately. And finally, at the end of Bhagavatam, there's the verse, Nama Sankirtana Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Paramam Dukkha Samanas Tam Namami Harim Param. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. Yeah, this is the last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. The last chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam is glorifying the Lord's holy names and glorifying the Sankirtan process. And so this is the final verse of the Bhagavatam. So we can understand from this that the purpose of the Bhagavatam is to inspire someone to chant the holy names of the Lord. The purpose of Bhagavatam is to give one more faith in the process of Sankirtan, because that is the only process that works in this material age. Yeah? So, hearing all of this, we may think, then why do we have a yajna here every Saturday? Why do we do yajnas at all? Why do we do puja? Right? Why not just chant the holy names? Deity worship was for Dwapara Yuga. Yajna is for Treta Yuga. Why are we doing this, right? And so for this, we have to understand one simple thing, is that this yajnas, two things are happening. And Ramananda Prabhu, he says it at the beginning of every yajna. He says, this is for all of you to come together and chant the holy names. And he says that, he points at the Kirtan group, right? And he says, this is the real yajna, we are just facilitating, right? So a yajna, if you do a yajna, it'll bring more people together, right? Because a sacrifice is happening, a ritual is happening, and more people together will chant the holy name. Every evening there's Kirtan here, but there's only 5-6 people here. But on Saturday, we have a whole group of people who come. So many guests come because fire yajna is happening. So more people get to chant the holy name. That's one point. The second point is that what are they chanting in the yajna? You hear mantras you don't know, right? And you think they could be chanting anything, right? No. All they're chanting is the names of Krishna. All they're chanting is the pastimes of Krishna, the glories of Krishna, right? And I studied yajna, I know what they're saying. And it's just Krishna, Krishna, Krishna the whole time, right? I can give you a small instance. So yajna has generally a few different parts, but the yajnas that we do are separated into 2 main parts. So first, we install the fire. Yeah, we install a personality in the fire who is taking our offerings up to the person who we're offering it to. He's the messenger, he's the via, right? So depending what yajna you're doing, you install different people in the fire. We install Vaishnavagni, right? So we say, Om Vaishnavanam Agniha Gacha, Agnir Tvam Vaishnavanam Asi, Shri Vishnu Steja Vayam, right? We're installing Vaishnavagni there. And then what mantra do we chant to worship Vaishnavagni? We worship Krishna's names, because the Vaishnava is most happy when Krishna's names are chanted. So we chant Krishna Ananta Mukunda Madhava Hare Govindavam Shri Mukha Shri Gopi Janavallabha Vrajasurit Bhakta Priyetyochuta Bhakta Prema Vasakriya Falarasa Nandai Kanirnarti Brit Radha Kanta Duranta Samsriti Hare Tyakya Hijihwe Shada. Right? This is a beautiful verse. And it has Krishna Ananta Mukunda Madhava Hare Govinda Vamshi Mukha Shri Gopi Janavallabha Vrajasurit Bhakta Priyetyochuta. Bhakta Prema Vasa Kriya Falarasa Nandai Kadinarti Radha Kant. Okay, so the rest is the translation. So it's saying that chant those names, O tongue. Eternally chant those names. Right? They are the removal of all obstacles. They're the most dearest. Radha Kantu Duranta. They're the most pleasurable to Sri Radha. These names of Krishna. Right? They are the removal of all obstacles, the removal of all miseries, right? And any pain, right? Dina arti hirtit means any pain or suffering you're going through, they are the removal of those pains. And so, O tongue, akyahi jikhve sada, O tongue, please eternally chant those names. So this is the mantra we're chanting to worship Vaishnavagni, to make him stay there. Right? So we're not chanting some mantra to get material opulence, to get some power, to get some fame. No, it's Krishna's names. And the next mantra we chant is Om Krishna Vai Sachidananda Ganaha Krishna Adi Purushaha Krishna Purushottamaha Krishna Hau Karamadi Moolam Krishna Sah Sarvai Karyaha Krishnam Kasham Kridadisha Mukha Prapu Pujaha Krishna Nadis Tasmin Ajan Dantar Bahye Yam Mangalam Tallabate Kriti. Right? This is another verse. And you can hear how many times we said Krishna in the verse, right? And it's just telling that Krishna is the source of everything. Krishna is the supreme controller. Krishna is the goal of everything we do. Anything that's auspicious comes from Krishna, right? And so it's emphasizing this point again and again and again. And this is the mantras we chant. Then we chant one of the Pancha Shukta or Purusha Shukta, right? And at the end of the yajna, the second part of the yajna, is Vaishnava Homa. And we're chanting the names of the Vaishnavas, one after another. Then we go through Mangalacharana because they're the Lord's Vaishnavas. So we go through the same mantras we chant, Ajnanatimirandasya, Vandeham Shri Guru, Namo Vishnupadaya, going through all the different gurus, our parampara. So this is the mantras we chant. We're not chanting something that's from some Purana that's just for material opulence and like that. It's Krishna's names, form, and activities. So that is Sankirtan. This is Sankirtan. During a yajna, it's just Sankirtan going on. Understand? So there's no conflict. There's no, contradictions in our practices. When we do puja, right? What mantras are we chanting? Songs and prayers by our Vaishnavas acharyas. Yeah? It's just worshiping the Lord, talking about his pastimes, talking about what he's doing, where he's doing it, who he's doing them with. So it's just one prayer of the Lord's names after another. Yeah, so we shouldn't feel uneasy. We shouldn't think that this is not important. No, during the yajna they're chanting the Lord's names, and it brings so many people here to chant the Lord's names also. So it's just another facility, another way in which we can chant the Lord's names. Yeah? It's kind of, in Ayurveda, there was, just an example, there was this one, Vaidya means a doctor, yeah? And he was supposed to treat a Muslim king, yeah? And so this Muslim king was very materialistic. And he had very little faith in medicine or anything, so he was refusing to take. And so this doctor, he checked the king, he saw his problems, and so he asked the king, "Can I observe you for one day? What do you do in a day?" And he saw that this king, every day in the morning, he was reading from the Quran. And when he was reading from the Quran, he was licking his fingers to make them moist. Yeah? So this doctor, what he did is the next day he took the Quran from the king, and the next day he brought it back, and it was all decorated in a beautiful case. And he said to my king, "You please continue reading like you're doing, and the Lord will take care of your sickness." And so what the doctor did is he took the medicine powder and he rubbed it on each page. And he saw that the king was reading 100 pages a day. So the king would lick his finger 100 times a day, and he would take the medicine 100 times a day. And like that, the king got better. But what did the king think? Allah cured me. Right? And so he became so happy. Right? So this doctor knew that this is the way in which to get the medicine for this person. So the same way, different people will have different ways or different inclinations in which to approach the Lord. And so in Krishna consciousness, we're so fortunate that we have hundreds of different ways in which we can perform devotional service and in which we can chant the Lord's names. Right? So for different people, we attract them in different ways. So a yajna brings so many people for the Lord to come here, to come together, to chant the names of the Lord. And so it's another way of attracting people, to give them the medicine. Yeah? And they think it was the yajna that was so amazing. But what was amazing? They were hearing the Lord's name for 1 hour. And that's why they feel so uplifted. That's why they feel so purified. Right? So this is what we have to understand. There's no contradictions in what we're doing. And the power of the holy name. Yeah? We shouldn't think that we're being cheated. We shouldn't think that what we're doing is any less than. We should just think that the Lord is so merciful that instead of us have to going through so many hundreds of years of austerity, we're able to get the result by chanting one time the name of Krishna. And that we should have full faith in. Yeah? So there's another pastime I thought I would share that's more recent, that's speaking about the glories of the holy name. So there were some devotees, not devotees at that time, there were kids from Scotland. And they were playing this game, GTA. I don't know if some of you know, Grand Theft Auto. It's a very big game, right? So when this game first came out in, I think, 99 was the first version, there was a feature in the game that you could run over Sankirtan parties. Yeah, they had Harinam parties running in the streets, and you could go with your cart and smush them, right? And so these kids, they love doing that because it's so funny. They're all on a line, and you smush them, and you'll hear them, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you smush them, and you get a whole bunch of points. I mean, Grand Theft Auto already is just, everything you do wrong, you get points, right? So, and this was the first version. And I remember when the game came out, we were all looking at, what is this, And so they would go, and one of the kids knew that devotees, when anything happens, they would say, Gauranga. And so whenever they would run over the Sankirtan party, all the kids together would go, Gauranga! And it was like a whole thing. They would love it. They would look for Sankirtan parties in the game and run over them. And it's not easy. I mean, even though they're in a line, one of the devotees always jumps out, so then you need to chase him, right? Anyway, so they had so much fun like this. So years later, this boy, he ended up in Australia, and or New Zealand, one of them. And he heard that really good food you could get in the Govindas. So he went there, and then when he went there, he saw the devotees, and he was like, you're the guys I used to run over. And he heard the Maha Mantra, and he heard Gauranga. There was a song, Gauranga Nityananda going on. And so he was interested, what is this? I used to play. And so he asked, started asking more about philosophy. He became a devotee because of the purification that he received chanting Gauranga's name and Krishna's name, hearing Krishna's name in a game. So we really see that the Lord takes no offense, right? The name is potent, doesn't matter in which way it's said, right? And not only that, he then told his friends, hey, you guys should go to the temple. It's really cool. So they went to the temple and they heard the philosophy and they became devotees. So these devotees, they were so amazed at the power of Gauranga's name that someone other brought them into the association. So this mood of faith in Gauranga's name became really big in Scotland at that time. So these devotees who were a little bit computer geniuses, they sent one of these spam mails. When you can send emails, sometimes you get spam mail, right? And this is way back when, so it wasn't like clearly in Google already separated. No, it would come in your phone and your notifications. So they sent an email to 170,000 people. Chant Gauranga's name and be happy. That was the email they sent to 170,000 people. And so in the newspapers it came out, mass scam, who is Gauranga, what is Gauranga? Everyone was talking Gauranga, everybody was wondering, and you think about the amount of people who would Google after receiving the email, what is Gauranga, right? So this Gauranga went for ages, for weeks. It became like, headlines in the local news, mass spam emails, what is this going on, who is Gauranga? Anyway, it caused millions of people to chant Gauranga's name, knowingly or unknowingly. And so the devotees did that, and they were so convinced, and they had many devotees, many more people came to the temple, etc. But they had such faith in Gauranga's names that they did this, and it was actually pretty interesting, right? Another way we can understand the power of Krishna's name is shown by the Lord himself. Right? In Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took birth at what time? Right? What was happening in the world when Mahaprabhu took birth? It was a lunar eclipse. Right? In Sastra, in the Vedic scriptures, it says, very inauspicious, right? Someone who takes birth at that time will have so many things messed up in his astrology. Moon will be debilitated. So many things will happen to that person if he takes birth at that time. But what did Mahaprabhu think? It's the best time. Why? Because when an eclipse happens, everyone chants the name of Hari. All the Hindus were in the river Ganga, chanting the name of Hari, shouting the name of Hari, taking bath. And all the Muslims were making fun of the Hindus chanting the name of Hari, so they were also chanting the name of Hari, making fun of the Hindus chanting the name of Hari. Right? So everyone in Bengal at that time was chanting the name of Hari, and Mahaprabhu thought, now is the time to take birth. He was late. He was supposed to have been born early, but he stayed in the womb of Mother Sachi, waiting for the time when everyone was chanting the name of Hari. He didn't care about the eclipse. right? Because the name of Krishna is much more important. So if the Lord himself completely disregarded the rules and regulations of Shastra, knowing that the name of Hari is much more powerful, we should have the same faith, right? And it's not to say that we should not follow any rules and regulations that Shastra says and just completely ignore them. No, it means that our faith in the holy name should be stronger, and we should use any tools or means to increase our faith and to help us in this path. So we have rules and regulations in the Shastra, such as performing sacrifice, such as following rules and regulations, that help us with our mind, our false ego, to help us to get more faith. And so we should use them properly. But we should always maintain that this is all done so that Harinam will be chanted, so that the holy name will become more prominent in our life. Yeah? Why do we do all these things? So that we're more focused, so that we're more attentive, so that we can understand better. Yeah? So that is the reason. I know some devotees, they like to chant the Narayana Kavacha. Narayana Kavacha is a mantra that's very, very powerful. And it installs Narayan's armor. Basically, this is with the Lord's name, with Narayan's name, you're installing an armor on yourself. And it protects you from not only any physical problems, but also health, mental, anything. And so when I asked the devotees, Prabhu, why are you chanting Narayana Kavacha? He says, so that I am protected from Maya, so I can better chant my rounds. Right? He's chanting this very long mantra. And you have to do it with such meditation. You have to do so many achamans and focuses and dhyanams and so many things before chanting Narayana Kavacha. You have to fast. And he's doing all that so that he can grab his bead bag and chant better in the morning. Why? Right? Because he wants to chant better. Because he wants to do his puja better. Because he wants to serve the devotees better. So then that gives meaning. Right? Prabhupada said we worship Nrsingadev so he would protect us in our path of devotional service. Not so we get money, fame, and wealth. Right? He's there to protect us in our path of devotional service. We chant Nrsimha Kavacha so that we're protected, so we can follow the process of devotional service. Right? So anything that you see that can help you in the process of devotional service, you should be grateful, you should take it and follow it. But always remember that the Lord's holy names are what you're trying to do better, is what you're trying to chant better. Yeah? Srila Prabhupada, at that time, many devotees would come to Srila Prabhupada and say, Prabhupada, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do pranayam? Can I do yoga? And most of the devotees, he said, no, just chant the holy names. But in private, to some devotees, he said, yes, if that helps you keep healthy, right? Focus your mind, then yeah, you can do your yoga. Right? To, what's his name? Nanda Kumar Prabhu, his servant. He was very sincerely practicing yoga. And it would help him sit and chant his rounds. He was able to chant 16 rounds perfectly straight back. And he felt very healthy and proper serving Srila Prabhupada when he was able to do his yoga. And so Prabhupada gave him permission. But he didn't want it to become something that would distract people from the holy name. So he didn't give it to everyone. He didn't just, put it in his books, everyone should follow yoga. No, but for a particular purpose, for that devotee to better chant his rounds, he gave permission. Because what was the purpose behind the devotee's request? To better serve Srila Prabhupada and to better chant his rounds. So we can understand it that way. And if we see something that can better help us take Krishna consciousness more seriously, that's what we should do. Yeah? It's just like also in first initiation, there's no need of a yajna at all. Right? This is from our Bhakti Marg, this is from our Raganuga, right? There's no need of any yajna. Why do we perform a yajna at the time of initiation then? It's so that the disciple will see the yajna, see the fire, remember the vows he's taken more seriously. If he just sits on a bench and tells the spiritual master, I'll follow the four regulative principles and chant 16 rounds every day, it won't be a big deal to him. It won't become a samskara. Samskara means impression on the mind. Yeah, you imagine you have a plate of metal and you take a big hammer and you whack it, you'll see that that impression, right? That mark. So you need a big hammer, and that's why we have the yajna. We have the big, sacrifice. We have the big group of devotees. We do it on a special day. There's no need for special time. There's no need for yajna. There's no need for any of this. But it's for us that we go through all this, so it makes a bigger impression on our mind. The holy name can be given at any time. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took initiation from Gorkishore Das Babaji in the forest. Right? It wasn't a particular day, particular time, just gave him. Right? Narottam Das Thakur gave initiation to two of his disciples. Right? There was Harirama and Ramakrishna, actually. Those are his two disciples, one of his first disciples. He gave them just on the way coming up from the Ganga. They were coming back from the Ganga, and they were listening to him and Ramachandra Kaviraj speak about the glories of the holy name. They were Durga worshippers, and they were bringing goats, going for sacrifice for their father, who was a big Durga, a Brahmana. So they were taking the goats and the buffaloes to go get sacrificed, and they heard Narottam Das Thakur speak about the glories of the holy name. And so they went and they paid obeisances and they surrendered. And there and then, Narottam Das Thakur gave them initiation. And they stayed with them for 2 weeks, right, to learn about the process of the holy name. And there's a whole pastime that happens after. But there's no need for a particular time, place, yajna, everything not needed for first initiation. But we do it for us, to remember it, to take it more seriously, that yes, I was there in the sacrifice. I made my promises in front of the fire, in front of the Lord, in front of so many devotees. So we will take it more seriously. So you see, these means are being used for us to take the holy name more seriously, to take the name more prominent. So that is what we use it for. So we shouldn't think that there's any contradictions. We shouldn't think that there's, misgivings against people who are performing yajnas, who are performing other things to bring people together to chant the holy name. That we should always see what is happening actually. If someone makes a big festival on Christmas, or on Easter we had a huge festival, right? We shouldn't think, oh, they're celebrating Karmi holidays, nonsense devotees. No. They got 100 people to come and chant the holy name because it was a public holiday. And if they didn't do this festival, no one would have come. So what's the problem? Right? So that's the points I wanted to make. If there's any questions or comments, please. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for the class. I was hearing some days ago how Srila Prabhupada would always ask to the servants for the auspicious days for initiations, for giving initiation. He would always ask, okay, when is the next days so that we could do it? So you were just mentioning about how they are secondary, the externals for taking initiation. So can you speak on that?
Yes, perfect. There's actually a point I wanted to make. Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhupada did that as well for the Vaishnavas, for the devotees, for the disciples. There's a I forgot the name of the Maharaj. I was listening to his memories like 2 days ago, and his service was in Bombay at that time. I think it was in the early 70s. Grains were being rationed by the governments, so you weren't able to go to a store and buy 100 kilos of rice or wheat. You're only able to buy a certain amount per person per day. And so this devotee would have to go to houses and beg for grains to be able to do the food for life, right? And so that was his service. And so he was recommended for sannyas. And so Prabhupada said, why don't you come to Mayapur for Gurpurnim so you can take sannyas? And he's told Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I was planning on going for begging so I could do food for life on that day, because in Bombay on those days we usually have, 80,000, 100,000 people coming and taking prasadam, and we do kirtan. And so Prabhupada said, yes, do that. He said, all these initiation, all this is secondary. Prabhupada told him, because he saw the faith in the disciple, that even the disciple understood that this is more important, he didn't push it. But for us, if we don't get initiated on a special day, it's not something in our mind. It's not something big, right? So it's so important to get more mercy from the Lord, to get more mercy from the devotees who assemble on those days. But it's not a requirement as far as how powerful the name is, whether it's on that day or not. Right? That's for us. That's for us to get more blessings, But you don't think that Swami who was doing food for life got more blessings from Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada must have been so pleased that his disciple was willing to forego his big sannyas ceremony in a special day when so many devotees are there, and rather go and distribute prasadam and get sannyas on another day and any day when Prabhupada had time. Prabhupada must have been much more pleased, and that devotee must have got more blessings, because he really understood. Right? So the reason we do it on special days and in front of so many devotees is to get more blessings, and we need all the help we can get. Right? So we shouldn't think that they're unimportant. Of course it's important. These special days are important, doesn't matter what you do. Right? But whenever the spiritual master has time, whenever the spiritual master is available, right? They say, Shubhasya Shigram in Sanskrit. Means the good thing should be done quickly, because you don't know what can change. Right? You shouldn't wait around and then the circumstance changes and then, it doesn't work. Who knows what can happen tomorrow, the day after. You might die the day after tomorrow and you waited all the way until a special day to get initiation. Right? So the preliminary is the holy name. And all these other things are to help us do it better. The fire is to take us more seriously. The special day to get more blessings from whoever it is. You will be in a more devoted state of mind because of the day, of everything leading up to it, all the devotees coming together. You will take it more seriously. You'll get more blessings from the more devotees who are present. Yeah? But that instance is so important.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for amazing lecture. A very nice topic. I just want to add that growing up in India and staying in Europe for a couple of years, I have seen devotees in the West don't give a lot of importance to all of the things that you have said. So very good point. But yes, I do feel that even in India, what I have seen, devotees in India do know, the importance of chanting the holy name and all, but they still give priority to all these things, seeing the muhurta, seeing the pancha. And one of the examples I'll tell you, this I've seen in the West, one of the devotee couples I know, they got married on a new moon, on an Amavasya. And that is the worst day to get married. They got married and within 6 months, they split up. So when I see such things, I understand the importance of it. And I've seen the same things happening in India. And that's a good point. Another thing, my question I wanted to ask is regarding the Kavacham. So there are two Kavachams mainly chanted by Vaishnavas, the Narayana and the Narsimha. Can you tell me what is the difference between the both? And what I know from a little knowledge is Narayan Kavacham is basically for the protection of your mind and your body, and mainly so that your mind and your whole consciousness remains stable, while Narsimha Kavacham is for your external appeasement or external peace, so that people who interact with you and whoever comes to you, they don't come with a bad attitude or a malefic thinking towards you. So I just want to know more deeper understanding what is the difference between the both. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. For sure. Even Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, he's probably the best example of where these two worlds come together so perfectly. Maybe you don't know, but you know for sure, but maybe other devotees don't know. The Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the word Saraswati in his name is because he was such a skilled astrologer that he recalculated the course of the sun. So the solar calendar in astrology plays such an important part, but because the solar calendar doesn't change so drastically year by year, that usually it's just kept as a guarantee that this is what it is, and you can calculate everything based off that. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur realized by his studies that the solar calendar was off because it hasn't been recalculated for over 1,000 years. So he recalculated the course of the sun. And so his time, astrology in India hasn't been the same because they reuse his new calendar that he calculated. And so they awarded him this name, Saraswati, because he was so knowledgeable. And he wrote the book Surya Siddhanta, which is the proper understanding of the solar use in astrology. He was so well learned. And we're not thinking that Siddhanta Saraswati at some point he was a karmi and so he did that in his karmi years. No, he was a devotee from his childhood. Right? And still, he put such importance to astrology. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if he was supposed to travel and the next day wasn't a good muhurta for traveling, he would put his bag and his shoes outside the door the day before, during a good muhurta. So the journey started on a good muhurta, and the next day he just finished it. Yeah? He was so particular about these things because they helped us. Right? But he understood that they were helping us in the most important thing, his devotional service. Even Srila Prabhupada put importance to this when it was possible. Srila Prabhupada was supposed to have a meeting with Indira Gandhi to speak about visas for his Western disciples. Because there were rumors going around that his Western disciples were CIA agents and they were infiltrating India. Yeah? And so because of that, they weren't getting visas. So Srila Prabhupada was supposed to meet Indira Gandhi, and the only time they gave was Thursday afternoon. Anyone in India knows Thursday afternoon you do nothing new and nothing important of great, like to make a decision. You don't do it at that time. And so Srila Prabhupada told his disciples, Jayapataka Maharaj, he told them, if I'm going to meet her at that time, I'd rather not meet her at all. Because nothing of substance will be decided. Prabhupada put so much importance to this. Right? But why? Because it was going to help in his devotional service. So in India, yeah, people know about these things, right? Simple things. Not entering a room with your left foot first, right? So when they enter the temple, you'll see they'll always enter with their right foot first. They'll touch the ground and put it their head first to respect the yakshas that are protecting the door, right? So many things that in Western culture we know nothing about. But does that mean that we are getting bad reactions? No, because Krishna is the root of everything. And he is the controller of all the demigods. So if by mistakenly you perform some sort of aparad towards some other demigod, other activity, other entity, the Lord takes care. It's the mood in which we're performing it that's the most important. So if there is something that in Sastra, something in astrology, anything that can help us in our devotional service, we should follow. And we do every day. What do we do during Brahma Muhurta? We worship the Lord. Brahma Muhurta is in the morning. Right? Whatever you do at that time of the day will continue throughout the day. Not only that, whatever you do at that time of the day will give you much more benefit compared to if you did it at another time. So at Brahma Muhurta, we should chant the Lord's names, worship the Lord, whatever you want to do. Right? Whatever you're trying to achieve success in, you do it at that time of the day. Right? So we do it anyway, whether we know it or not. But if there is something that can help us do our devotional service better, we should take advantage. And so that is the principle. So yes, it's not that we shouldn't care about it. It's just that maybe if it's not our interest, or let's say if it's going to take away our time from reading Prabhupada's books, spending more time to study something that's a secondary principle might not be the best use of our time. Yeah, but if someone tells us, Prabhu, if you do this at this time, it will be more beneficial. Okay, so I'll chant my rounds at that time. If someone tells you, Prabhu, it's better not to do this, it can mess with your mind during an eclipse, not to look at the sun. Yeah, I'm not going to go outside and stare at the sun. No, I'll come here and stare at the real sun, and I'll chant his holy names. Yeah? So we should take heed of all these things in Shastras that can help us with our mind. And in that way, we do look for muhurtas. And especially we look for muhurtas not for spiritual activities, initiations. We look for muhurtas for material activities. Marriage, griha pravesh, right? Starting a business, getting a new car, right? Then we look for muhurta because what are we doing with those things? It's for our material enjoyment, to satisfy our anarthas. And so to make sure it comes to the best outcome is very important to look for muhurtas. especially marriage, right? Why not? And for all samskars in that way. Garbhodan, you always look for a very good muhurta because you want to have a very powerful and Krishna-conscious child, right? So for those material activities and samskaras, it's very important. But when you're speaking about Krishna consciousness, when you're speaking about Raganuga Bhakti, right? Then those things really are irrelevant because you're going out of this material world. Yeah? And it can help, but at the same time, it doesn't diminish the power of the holy name. The holy name is supremely powerful, whether you say it during a lunar eclipse, during a solar eclipse, during Brahma Muhurta, during any festival, it's always the same. It's us that receive it in a different way. Yeah? That answer the question, Prabhu? Okay, and then Narayana Kavacha and Nrsimha Kavacha. No, Prabhu, they're both the same. Nrsimha Kavacha, if you read, I mean, you understand Sanskrit, if you're chanting, you're asking the Lord to protect your thighs, your legs, your shins, your head, your eyes, to protect your back, all sides, right? And in Narayana Kavacha is the same. So the reason why devotees differ so much is because the process for Narayana Kavacha has been little better maintained, right? So the physical aspect, the touching the different parts, the chanting the mantras in the right way, the achamans, the dhyanams you do before. And so in that way, devotees take Narayana Kavacha as a little bit more big deal, but Nrsimha Kavacha is just as powerful, just as powerful. It's kind of the same thing. The externals are kind of determining the power of the mantra, but it's not like that. Yeah, it's like Manyashukta. Everybody freaks out about Manyashukta. But it's like, it all depends on Nrsingadev, what he wants to do, right? But yeah, it's a powerful mantra, but at the end of the day, we're in no way qualified to bring that power out of the mantra. So in fact, we're putting ourselves at a danger chanting these mantras that we may commit some offense. And they're not so forgiving like the holy name or Lord Gauranga. Yeah? Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I have a little story and a little question about the power of the Maha Mantra. I have an older brother and he has much problems with alcohol. And yeah, he did some weird stuff with me, make his fun about things that, yeah. And he heard about me that I'm in this Hare Krishna thing. Yeah, and he heard about that you can say not hello, so you say Hare Krishna, yeah. And he did so weird stuff to me, and then he called me, and then he wanted to make his fun and told me Hare Krishna, and I had a very good feeling that he told me that, and he laughed about this, yeah. So it was very funny, yeah, and I answered him Hare Krishna. And something happened after this. I don't know. And I think I had I don't heard about him a few days after this. And my question is it possible that? And I think it's possible because my feeling was like that. Is it possible that the Maha Mantra works on people that are laughing about this? Is it also working?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, it's working. There's
Yeah.
no question. The results may not come right now. It may come in a few years, may come in his next lifetime. He will be born in a situation that he can already take Krishna consciousness seriously. But there's no question that it's worked. I gave you the story also about those kids, right? Yeah. They were chanting the holy name and killing Vaishnavas in the game, right? Yeah, okay, and they became devotees. Yes. Yeah. They became devotees. So there's no question. There's also an instance of Jagai Madai, right? When they were hearing Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu chant the holy names, they were also jokingly and with bad intent, they were mimicking them. Mm. But another instance is given that the name already started to purify them. And so then when Nityananda Prabhu came, then already Madai's heart was a little bit softer. And so therefore, he protected Nityananda from being hit again with a pot. He never would have protected someone from being hit. He was killing people left, right, and center. Right? Burning people's houses. So it wasn't that he was any better than Jagai. No, it was that his heart was already being purified by saying Nityananda Prabhu and hearing the holy name. Yeah, so there's no question. Of course, it will, whether saying in a joking way, whether said in a harassing way, with anger, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but my another question in the rules there they stand it's better not to speak with people about Krishna that are not intelligent or maybe alcoholics or I don't know.
That's speaking about the glories of the holy name.
The glories of the
okay. Holy name you can tell with anyone.
Okay.
But the glories of the holy name you shouldn't speak with someone who doesn't have faith, because he may commit the offense of thinking, the other offense, thinking the glories of the holy name are imagination or exaggeration, right? So by telling him the glories of the holy name, he may commit the other offense, thinking that it's exaggeration or imagination. You understand? But the holy name, you can say to everyone, anyone, no problem. But to discuss deeply the glories of the holy name for someone who doesn't have faith, then he'll commit an offense. That's the point.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Hare Krishna.
We'll end here. We're already over time, but thank you so much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Harinam Sankirtana ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi.